It's important that you get out there and you vote. I'm not saying who to vote for, but it's important that you exercise that tool, that right that you have, that many have struggled and fight and even died over, for you to be able to secure, to get that representation. Why is this important? I know some people are thinking, well, how is this going to benefit me? All of these things affect us. For example, when you see garbage on the street, you may stop and wonder, well, you know, why are my streets always dirty? I don't understand it, where other areas, they come regularly. Well, if you registered for the census and you made yourself to be part of the count and stand up to be counted, those funds that are allocated to do good things in your community, if you don't register or vote or utilize those powers, they undercount your representation in the community. So if you don't take the time to be involved in the process, register for the census, take the time to vote, you don't get access to services that other communities might have. Another problem may be within the schools. Why are there so many kids in the classroom? Why are the teachers not equipped to handle so many students? That could be another reason. If you didn't, once again, do the census, we don't know how many people are in the community. And if we don't know how many people in the community, it gets underestimated. So when you see overcrowded classrooms, people falling behind that don't have the attention that they need, especially those that have fears of being undocumented per se, you can register for the census. You cannot vote in that status. However, you can make your situation known in that, you know, you're being counted. You're being counted, and once you're counted, it gives them a more beneficial way to be able to engage those services. So overcrowded classrooms, dirty streets. Where else might we see the effects of these elections and why it's so important? Hospitals, overcrowded hospitals. This is huge. This is huge. Everyone has the right to be able to be seen and treated at a hospital. But once again, if we don't engage ourselves in the community, then we won't be able to get those services that we need, especially people that don't have the income. You know, don't be embarrassed by it. If you have or need medical attention, get it. And based on your income, something reasonable will be able to work itself out. However, if you need medical attention, get it. There's plenty of issues. So now's a good time. We have all these elected leaders that are vying for spots in offices that want to be seen, want to be heard. Now is the time. Now is the time. There's a whole bunch of issues, whether it be immigration, a huge issue, pathways to citizenship. The world right now is your oyster, and such as I am, I have veterans issues as well, and these issues affect. This is the next show, Vetschatshow, right after this one. These issues, I want to know what's happening with issues for veterans. Quite often, they may be overlooked. And it's not only a veteran, it's also the family. And where does the family live? In our community, Nuestra, Comunidad, of course, because they're the ones that's holding us down. So I think a lot of times the community and the families are just as important to us as they may feel we are to them. Because what we go through, we go through together, and it's a ripple effect. There's nothing that I can do on or off the battlefield that does not involve my family. Just about any soldier you know has a mother, father, sister, brother, someone significant other. They may not be blood related, that's holding them down so that they can do the things that they do. So my hat's off to them and family readiness groups. Family is a huge, important part of that. And when I say family, I mean community, because the community is the family. You know, we don't go through any of this alone. So with that being said, I am going to get back to this list that is a notice of primary election. And that election is September 13, 2012. And here's who we have from New York City. We're going to go through all the boroughs, and we'll take a break. You know what? We will take a break at the end of each county but we'll go through the counties. We'll do that in English, and we'll do that in Spanish. But, looks like we have a caller coming in. Let's break for that and pick that up. Caller, you're on.
This is James Rodriguez.
Oh, wow, James Rodriguez. Welcome to the show. You're on right now, our community, Nuestra Comunidad, and we were just talking about, as a matter of fact, military and family and how the community of the military and the family is a part of the community, our community, Nuestra Comunidad. So why don't you introduce yourself, because it's an honor and pleasure to speak to you.
Well, it's an honor to be with you, Mr. Love. This is James Rodriguez. I'm the CEO and president for Fathers and Families Coalition of America. We are a nonprofit organization helping out other nonprofits, faith-based organizations, government entities, and alike to develop coalitions and networks, not only throughout the United States, but we have affiliates in Australia, Africa, Jamaica, and Bermuda. And I speak to you right now out of Oakland, California, where we just left 20 of our colleagues to develop a steering committee reflecting on policies that help out families and fathers. And there is going to be a special dedication. As a retired member of the Armed Forces, I served 20 years, 6 months, 13 days. Started in the Army, then I went into the Air Force and enjoyed my career. But we understand there's a lot of homeless veterans, a lot of veterans, including my son, who followed my footsteps and went to Afghanistan and came back with severe trauma and has been permanently medically retired because of that. So as a father and as a son and as a single father as well, when I was in the military being deployed, we know that there needs to be a lot more dedicated towards fathers and parents in the military.
Well, thank you for all that you do. This is a wonderful organization, and James Rodriguez, I would like, if it's okay with you, to share a little bit about your story and how it came to fruition, about being involved with this organization, a little bit more in your background, if you don't mind.
No problem. Like a lot of kids, I was from the inner city. I lived in the Bronx, in Harlem. I transitioned. My family moved us back and forth to California, to New York. There was a bus lines at the time, Trailways. I thought whenever I saw Trailways, I knew we was going to one, either New York or California. But I got deeply involved. I didn't have a father. I didn't have the structure. I had a great grandfather who was fantastic, a great mother, a great grandmother who was just phenomenal. But one of the things that happen is you become acclimated to your environment, and unfortunately, living in the environment in either coast, it was very challenging. And then moving from New York to California, I grew up too fast, and part of that took steps into gangs, really, really deep into gang lifestyle. And yet I was still a good student, an A student, maybe some B's, phenomenal football player, baseball player. But I just didn't have the structure nor the self-esteem at the time that I really felt I could be successful as a Puerto Rican. I just felt like, I won't be able to play in the NFL, and I didn't see Major League Baseball as an option. But I did look up to my grandfather who served in World War II. I knew my father. I didn't know of him too per se, but I knew he served in Vietnam. And I just liked the uniform when the recruiter came and suckered me at the high school. And I decided to go in the Army, and I went in as a combat medic, airborne, and went to what they call unassigned line medic, which basically means you're out in the field all the time. And later on, I transitioned to what they call undercover law enforcement, CID and OSI. And I wrapped up my career, but while I was still in the military, I was a father of two children, my oldest son, Antonio, and my daughter, Amber. They were 2 and 1, and I came home one day, and the house was wiped out. There was nothing left, and I just became a single father immediately overnight. But I just said, you know what, this is just something I got to do, and I was 23, going on 24, and was potty training one and bottle training the other, and serving my country. And even my kids remember coming to the installation with my M16 and my sidearm weapon, and they remembered it as little kids, and maybe that's why my son followed my footsteps in the military. But ups and downs of life. And when I left active duty, I went to active reserves because I could not take my military assignment overseas because the state said my kids could not come with me. And I didn't have enough advocation from the military. They didn't advocate strong enough for me to take my kids overseas, even though their mother was not involved. So when I left, my first job was with Head Start, and I was still serving active reserve. And I wrote a grant for $1 million to serve young fathers. I didn't do it because I was a product of the hood. I didn't do it because I was a product of a single father, single mother only headed household. I didn't do it even because I was a single father. I just felt like we needed to do something for some kids. Along this journey over the last 16 years, I see a lot more that I didn't see before, and one of that is there's a lot of pain, a lot of hole in the souls of a lot of men, a lot of boys who grow up without a father, a lot of girls as well. And I just find it necessary. I get a lot of calls from the military installations all over the country, a lot of people seeking help, but they don't often get it. And I'm grateful that we wrote that grant, we got funded, and because of that, we have a national conference, which you know about, Mr. Love, and we bring people from all over the country. And we did one at Columbia University this year, which was attended by 100 people, and probably should have been 100,000, but I just feel like it's a stepping stone. And I think American vets, AMVETS, and the VA, and installations, we probably need to have a focus on not only the military father, but veterans as well. And not just fathers, but mothers as well, but have a special focus on fathers, because there's not a lot of service for fathers who serve.
Well, that's a good point. We do have a lot of needs, and that's what the Vets Chat show is all about. And we draw on people with the next upcoming show, Vets Chat show. Right now, we're in our community, Nuestra Comunidad, and making best use of time, because Mr. Rodriguez is currently at an airport, and he's taken time to talk to us as long as possible about the programs, because these programs also are part of our community, Nuestra Comunidad. And Vets Chat Show is aligning itself, and I'm part of both shows, but basically the services that are offered are good for veterans and the community as well. And this is a good, timely topic because it's an election year, and these issues need to be brought to the forefront of these candidates and elected leaders. So I guess we can start from there on asking and tasking some of the elected leaders in their position, how can what you're doing, what are the needs of the constituents of your organization or needs in the community for fathers and families and also veterans that they can engage in? What are some of your needs from your coalition and yourself that you feel are important locally and nationally?
Well, I'm glad you said that. On a personal level, like I have a godson who lives up in Harlem, uptown, and I told his father, my cousin, do not make the same mistakes that your dad did. But you know what? He spiraled down and couldn't fix the legacy, unfortunately, that a lot of us have gone through, and a lot of our kids, and it's just got to stop. We've got 30 million children without a father in the home, and unfortunately, if you're Latino or black, we got too much of an overrepresentation of a lot of young men of color who aren't advancing to where they need to be. So there has to be a concerted effort for community forums on how to be a responsible father and man. Because before you become a father, you need to learn how to become a man. And if you don't have someone to model that to you, how can you become a boy, to become a teenager, to become a man? And I'm not talking about age or physical development. I'm talking about the maturity that it takes and the wisdom it takes, that if you don't get it imparted in you. So I think a lot of these legislators don't realize that they've got a lot of people that need help. And that also means organizations coming together. Now, we have a few affiliates in New York City, for an example. I'm very proud of Sharon Baptist Head Start. I'm very, very proud of Community Empowerment. I'm very proud of Long Island Head Start and EAC, Educational Assistant Corporations, and Upstate New York, which is another example. Upstate New York is one of our affiliates, and they are completely run by businessmen, by the Rotarians. And see, they've got the influence to go to some of these borough presidents and state assemblymen and state senators who need to start listening to what the community needs instead of pontificating in a position of opportunity for advancing effective policy. So I think one of the things that could happen, hopefully would happen in July when we had our inaugural meeting with 100 people, is that at Columbia University, the School of Social Work, is that there's an ongoing, continuous coalition meeting bringing all these different fragmented agencies that represent this and that. So they say, let's just all come together and focus on children and the different impacts on children. And one of them includes father absence, so that we can address that, but also at the same time prevent it from happening again. And I believe, I personally, this is just my own personal position and desire, that President Barack Obama is reelected, because I believe he understands that you need to invest in prevention resources for the community. And other people don't see that. And if we don't, we're going to be lost. And I can give you a lot of statistics, but I'm going to give you at least three. One, the number of kids who commit suicide, who successfully commit suicide out of single-parent households, 65% come from fatherless homes. That's not tried. That's completed. The other one is 80% of kids without a father in their home will not graduate high school. If they don't graduate high school, then they're not in a position to compete in our future global economy. If they're not able to compete in the future of our global economy, then we're going to have a generation of kids. They're going to grow up to be adults. They're going to have an uphill battle that hopefully they can get over. But why should they go through the battle when we should be addressing it right now and have some intervention in the school systems, instead of the school system saying that we're overstressed, overtaxed, teachers not paid enough? So that's another element. And then the other thing that really is just glaring is just the amount of kids that right now in New York, as an example, who are state institutions, what you want to call it, juvenile detention centers, foster group homes, 90% plus come from fatherless homes. 90% of our kids in the foster care system, juvenile correction systems, are from fatherless homes. So what are we going to be doing about that? We need to have real men raise up. Mm-hmm. And even if you're not the father, like Mr. Love is a great man, he can't mentor every kid in the country. Not every church can mentor every kid in the country, but collectively, we need to start having policy that does address funding mentoring programs so that it doesn't happen. And I think the community should be very, very disturbed that our future and young generation is falling behind the rest of the world. We're not even in the top 10 anymore. We're not even in the top 20 as far as advancing academically, and these other statistics that I shared with you. So those three things policymakers need to focus on. The fourth thing is the community needs to come together and be change agents and not sit back and wait for it to happen like they're not part of the problem, because they are part of the problem if they don't do anything that's proactive. That's why we're advocating, and that's why we're going to go speak at Washington, D.C. on September 22nd, where I keynote on the Capitol Hill and ask for Congress to really start investing in our future, in particular with Latino and Black, but all kids. But there's got to be something that's done within those communities.
Well, let me share you this. As you were speaking, I took notes to help me stay on point with it, because I'm so in tune to these issues. Why? Because I'm living them as well, and mentoring is so important. And I'll share this story that I never thought, or I never seen the power of influence that one can have on another, as I've seen within my own family. My sister is an amazing role model. She is a single parent. She's a woman, and she is just phenomenal. But there's no male in the household. And growing up as a brother, I had my nephew in my life. And I've been there for her, and I've been there for him time and time again. And he's had his moments where, as a young boy becomes a man, and then that adolescence phase, and they start getting up and about and getting into different kind of activities, which will happen in the city. It's not easy. There's only so much, as much as a mother may love her son, that male role is important to balance everything out. Now, I never thought I'd had that getting through to him, or had much of an influence. I've always exposed him and given him the opportunity to be exposed, and I would bring him to even the police explorers, or invite him to military events at times during the holidays, and he's actually come to some. But it came a point in time fairly recently that he actually signed up, and he's a veteran now. He just recently came back from Afghanistan. He did his tour of duty in the Army, Operation Iraqi. No, that's the right now he's in Afghanistan. So it wasn't Iraqi Freedom. It was the New Dawn. That's what they're calling it now. So he's come back from Afghanistan, and he's looking to reintegrate himself. Now, it's funny because I never thought he would come, that I'd be able to influence him to do. I'd never thought of him as even joining, but just by mere presence, he was able to see an opportunity to change his life and make and create a new pathway to him. So I'm happy he came back, and I salute him for being able to continuing and serving. But mentoring is very important, and a lot of times as a male, I didn't even realize the power of just the presence of just carrying on that would have. And we've never had that dialogue, but obviously he's something's changed in him, and I think he's a more worldly person. As you mentioned before, the military has given an opportunity to have opportunity to compete on a global level and take advantage of education. So modeling and leadership by example is very important, and mentoring, and as a father or a male, and you're doing something positive, there's not a lot of media on that. So never forget that as a man, that's very important. My two other quick notes was, besides the modeling, and we already talked about was the rites of passage. It is daunting as a rites of passage, especially as a young male, because we don't have that as much, especially within the Black and Latino community. We do celebrate the coming of a woman with a Sweet 16 or what's it called, younger than that, quinceañera. My Spanish is not that good. If you're in there, help me out. But when a young girl becomes a woman, she has a celebration. Bless you. And as a young boy becomes a man, I didn't really have that much of a rites of passage for within the Jewish community to have a bar mitzvah. If anything, there was more of a warning, like you pass 18, you're becoming a man, or 21, like this one is going to stick. Don't get into trouble. Other than that, within the males in the community, the rites of passage and someone sitting down and creating a dialogue and creating positive examples of what we should be doing, how we should be doing, and become better persons, I think we're a little bit lacking on. And last but not least, the opportunities that Fathers and Families Coalition does a wonderful thing with, and Mr. Rodriguez did mention, is also a national town hall meeting, a meeting in every community, not only all over the United States, but it could be all over the world since there's live stream now, that can get together issues in the local community with local elected leaders and a panel that can actually affect change together with the community, because every community is different. So would you like to talk a little bit about this national town hall meeting, if you're still with us, James?
Yeah, one of the things that we do is I believe that there should be a series of discussion around policy that's impacting our communities, starting at the local level, state, and national. Well, we want to have town halls. We've done a couple, I think only 3 or 4, and through the use of technology, webinar, cable, direct audiences, and live stream, we've been able to have over 300,000 participants in our national town halls over the last 3 years. That's a lot from nonprofit. And then what we also do, and we're going to be doing it the week of September 19th through the 22nd, is we take a trip, and anyone's welcome to come with us up to Washington, D.C. We meet with our legislators. This year, we're meeting with the U.S. Office Commissioner for Child Support. We're meeting with the U.S. Department of Justice, the gentleman who oversees the youth juvenile detention programs, delinquency programs, and we're meeting with the second or third highest non-appointee in U.S. Department of Education, and to talk about the role of fathers impacting educational attainment of children. So it's an opportunity for us to both educate them and they educate us, to share our concerns, to share our areas that we feel that can continue to grow, and it's also an opportunity for us to advocate for our communities, which I think is important, probably more so important than we realize. Finally, if we continue to do these and build a series, and I actually have a model right now that I don't mind giving it to anyone, because I don't believe in hoarding information, but these ongoing dialogues. There was a senator that we met from New York last year that I really had hoped that he was going to carry the mantle and continue ongoing discussion, and hopefully he will. And I have an assemblyman in New York, Felix Ortiz, out of Brooklyn, New York, District 51. He is more than willing to advocate for fatherhood and is one of our board members, but he can't do it alone. Right. So that means these other state officials, commissioners, they need to get on task. And the only way they're going to get on task is if leaders and stakeholders in the community say, hey, we need you to really examine this issue and let's move it forward. New York State, once upon a time, had a great fatherhood initiative, was funded through the Office of Temporary Disability Assistance, OTDA, and it dwindled. And part of the reason why programs dwindled, 1 is money, that's obvious. 2 is leadership. 3 is, are you effectively evaluating what you're doing with the ability and flexibility to elevate? And the 4th is getting all the stakeholders equally involved. We live in a world of vertical leadership, so you can't do that on a community issue. It has to be horizontal, where everyone has the same level of influence and the same level of a voice, and that there really is no spokesperson that is the one and only one that to advocate or speak on an issue. So that's what needs to happen. You have to cultivate more of a horizontal leadership framework, or they call it a servant leader mindset. And that is very difficult for many of my colleagues because they're so used to being CEO and president that they forget at the end of the day they start off as a janitor. And I think that's the mindset that we've got to remember, to don't forget where you came from. And when you do that, you have a lot of leaders that do that, it just makes it different. And then you have some that are in position, and they've been put in position, and I don't know about you, Trent, but I've met a lot of people in the military and not in the military. They hold a position of leadership, but they are not a leader. And so I would like us to get youth to be more involved and have them advocate, because they're our future leaders. And one day, when we're older and older, we're going to be looking at a gentleman or a woman who's in her 30s or 40s who may be president of the United States. And we're going to have to say, gosh, I hope we did a good job as a community raising them up and mentoring them up. And not only for the elite, but for everyone. So that's what these town halls are for. And that's why we go to Washington, D.C. We don't just advocate for the here and now, but for the future. And the future is our youth and our children. And I think it's a great opportunity. And the only thing that prevents us from making a difference is when we use the word try, because there is no such thing as try. Either you do or you fail. And if you fail, you learn from your sorrows and more than you do from your success. And that's why I like our town halls, because it brings people together with a collective voice. And I would love to have one in New York City again, and hopefully it does transpire.
Well, I will put it out on record. I will do what I can to try to keep this conversation going. This is another outlet here at Nightline Radio that's hosting this segment of our community, Nuestra Comunidad, and also upcoming vetschatshow. And we could continue to engage these issues, especially around times that matter, that will also keep the youth engaged, because they are our future leaders. And it's important to bridge the intergenerational gap. I had many mentors, and actually James is one of my mentors that I look forward to. That's not always someone that's assigned to you. It's someone that, you feel you can emulate and take a lot of the positive knowledge, wisdom, and experience that they have and incorporate yourself in it. And I had one a while ago, and it's always ingrained in my brain. Two of those principles, and probably James reminded me of a third. I had a person was my mentor, used to always look at me and say two things and walk away. And it made me think so much. Just look at me and stop and say, remember who you are and where you are, and just walk away. And that always grounded me. And he did it more than once. That was all he said. Just look at me, dead stare. Remember who you are and where you are, and walk away. Now that stayed with me. And James Rodriguez probably reminded me of a third one. And I keep this in my head from time to time, because it's important to remember this also. Remember who you are, where you are, and where you come from, because our history is very vital. With those three elements, that could keep you pretty much grounded in a lot of things that we do today. And also, I think it's a wonderful idea, engaging and re-engaging the youth, because they are our future, and it's so important. And we got to be able to create something and leave a legacy or model that they can build off of and work with. They're so innovative and open to learn and ready to learn and lead. We just have to get on the same sheet of music and realize that they have a way of presenting things in their own style and way. And it's wonderful. So we got another guest coming up, James. In the last 5 minutes, is there anything that you would like to mention that's coming up? We thank you for your time, and we'll invite you again to be a guest. I want to know how things went up in Washington, D.C., and we'll get a full report. So we will follow up with you. But would you like to add anything within the last 5 minutes?
No, I'm just excited about our future, and, hopefully everyone that is connected to this broadcast shares the word, because it's through grassroots effort and local volunteerism that we can make a difference in our communities. And, originally I love New York. It's my home off on 106 in Columbus. And so whenever I go back to New York, or whenever I go to 137th Street, I always remember where I came from, and I'm just appreciative of the leaders that are there and the young kids, because sometimes we get a bad rap. And I just feel like this is great potential that are there. And it doesn't matter where you live. It doesn't matter if you live up in one of the nicer places. You can live in Mount Vernon. You can live upstate. You can live in one of the public housing residential centers. But you still have an opportunity, and you still have a voice. It should almost be a requirement to advocate for your community. So I appreciate you, Mr. Love, and as you said, I'm at the airport, so I'm ready to get on my plane.
All right. Well, Godspeed, safe landing, and we thank you so much for your time. It's been an honor and pleasure. And James is signing off right now, but we are going to keep the lines open. 646-797-3106 is the phone line to call in. Let's keep this conversation going, and we'll be back with more on our community, Nuestra Comunidad.